Today, we're going to turn this pineapple into a household cleaner. I generally do this once a year, and I usually buy my pineapple right around Easter because that's when they're priced the best. This time we're almost a month after Easter, and I finally found one that was under $2. So you know how the world is right now. But I have been thinking about Hawaii constantly. We went the end of 2019, and we toured the Dole Plantation. This is a Chiquita pineapple, and they have pineapples growing just like as far as the eye can see, and it's beautiful. So amazing. I can throw some pictures in, actually. We have a lot of them. But, fun fact, most pineapple in the US, like in the mainland US, does not come from Hawaii, despite the fact that for the longest time it did. Most of ours are coming from other places. And the ones they grow in Hawaii, they really just use in Hawaii and then like sell as like souvenirs almost. You can like buy them there at the Dole Plantation and ship them to your house. Right there at the gift shop, which is so funny to me. But we've got this one here, so we're gonna go ahead and prep him, get him ready so that we can have him for a delicious treat this evening with our supper. And then we're gonna save all the little scraps to make a cleaner with. So I just checked, this one's from Costa Rica. So if you're wondering what you need to get your household cleaner together for yourself, you need obviously a pineapple. You need some distilled white vinegar, also known as cleaning vinegar. It's just the easiest base to use for this. Fun fact, it is an acid, it's not a base. So you do want to make sure that the jars that you're using are safe for vinegar. So we're just going to be using some half-gallon canning jars here. One of my favorite things to do is just reuse old pickle jars for this, but I don't currently have any pickle jars empty, but they are perfect. If you wanted to go through the effort of just cutting this up incredibly small, you could put it back in the jug that the vinegar comes in. That is an option if you don't have jars and stuff like that. You do want to be careful pouring just the straight vinegar in thin plastic containers. You can end up with some reactions and stuff like that. So the only reaction we want is between the pineapple and the vinegar. We want to eliminate all other reactions that could potentially take place, because we want a really strong cleaner. So you need your jars. I have 2 half-gallon jars because I'm going to go ahead and just do the whole thing at once. I do have my canning funnel here. It is not a necessity. I'm just going to be using it to make sure that we get every last bit into our jars. I'm going to be using these ball leak-proof reusable wide mouth jars that fit my lids that fit my jars, as we are saving as many of the metal canning lids and stuff as we possibly can for canning this fall. And while this process shouldn't hurt them, I don't really want to expose them to the acid of the vinegar when we haven't used them yet. So if you have some old ones that you have used for canning previously, this would be a perfect job for them. Or if you've got something like this, great as well. I'm going to be using this weird cutting board. Isn't that crazy? It is real beat up. Let me move this over. It's real beat up from years of repetitive use. But what it does is it allows I'm working in a little tight space here, guys. Allows all the juice from whatever you're cutting on the board to travel down to this well so that you can pour it into something. And that way I'm going to be able to use all the pineapple juice and it won't just be running all over my counter. This is from Pampered Chef, but I'm sure that you can find them other places. And I know this is not the current model because we've been using it for almost a decade. And then I've just got a bowl for my pineapple that we will be enjoying this evening and a big sharp knife. Now, I've seen about 1 million ways you can cut a pineapple between Facebook, TikTok, all that stuff where you roll the segments out and all that stuff. That's not what we're here for today. We want all the skin in our jars. So what I'm going to do first is just cut the leaves off. And I'm actually going to put them in one jar and the scraps in the other. I like to also do the leaves. I don't know how much it actually benefits for me, but I like to do it. They break down really, really well, and you can tell that there is a pineapple scent to that vinegar, so I know it's doing something in there. And I figure, waste not, want not. Also, pineapples are really hard to cut through, so forgive me while I'm doing this, but a little bit easier if you kind of turn as you go. I'm trying to keep it straight. I don't want to waste any that we could eat tonight in this either. So you really just want it to be scraps. Look how pretty that is. So to get this to go into a jar, I need to make sure that this piece is smaller than the jar. So I'm gonna have to cut off these and they'll just go in our scrap jar. One other fun thing is once you're completely through with this project in several weeks from now, you can put these pieces into your compost if you're comfortable having vinegar scraps in your compost. So that is a personal choice. It depends on what else you're composting, things like that. Now, this is going to be a pain in the butt to get out of here, but you just push it down in there. Sometimes you got to do like a twist and push to get it in, and it is going to fight you, and you probably are going to get poked a couple times, but it will fit in there. You just kind of got to shove it. There you have it. So these leaves are sticking out a little bit, so I'm just gonna cut them and put them back in. So for this next one, as we go, I'm just gonna put the scraps into the jar. That way we don't have a huge pile piling up. Me personally, the way I prefer to cut pineapple, and you do it whatever way makes sense for you, is I cut off the skin all the way around, and then I cut chunks off around the center core. The center core is very hard if you've never cut a pineapple before. That piece will go right in here. Everything around the edges will go in here. And if there's any of these little seed spots that look particularly rough, they go in here as well. So we're just gonna go through. So the trash pieces will go in here, and the eat pieces will go in here. Yeah, let's get to work. This will be going in the fridge to have for dinner tonight. And then this, I'm gonna just rinse with a teeny bit of vinegar right into my jar. Now I'm just gonna fill them both up with vinegar. Somehow I lost the clip from the day that we did these. So it is now 3 days later, and you can already start to see a little bit of the vinegar breaking down the pineapple and stuff there on the edges. But you just let it sit, room temperature. I try to keep it out of the sunlight, so I've got them stashed here under our cabinet. And we're gonna check in every week, and in approximately 6 weeks, we're gonna have fresh cleaner. Here we are 2 weeks in. So other than to just like slide them around on the countertop, I have not moved them. But you can already start to see like where it's breaking down and stuff like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and give it a shake today, and we'll see what has actually been broken down. In the leaves, pretty much nothing. I mean, there's a couple small little floaties, but that's it. I generally like to shake them once a week. Time got away from us, so we're here on week 2. I'm also not sure about that black spot on that one. Because it is fully submerged in vinegar, it's not mold. So I don't know what it is. It could just be a bad spot. But you can see there's quite a bit that has come loose. By the time these have sat for several weeks, you'll have a bit of buildup at the bottom of like this little stuff coming loose. Because I didn't cut very far into like the flesh when I was removing the skin of the pineapple, it doesn't have a lot of that stuff. If you had cut a lot deeper to get like all the little seed pits out and everything like that, you'd have a lot more debris, I guess, in your vinegar. So yeah, there we have 2 weeks, and we're just gonna let them keep doing their thing here on the counter. When I'm not filming this, they do sit back here in the dark. They don't sit out in the sunlight, just because I don't want to degrade the vinegar. So there you have it. So we will check in later. Here we are 4 weeks in. I just shook them, which is why this one has little sediment floating up and down, but there you are. Not much has really happened. All right, so these guys have been sitting here for 7.5 weeks. It is, yikes, I think it's June 22nd. It's either the 21st or 22nd. So these have been sitting here for 7.5 weeks. So I pulled the calendar, that's what it says. This is a newer batch we just started last weekend, so you can kind of see the difference in, let's get some of this stuff out of here. Like the colors from the degradation of this one versus that one. It's also raining really hard outside, so I don't know if you guys can hear that or not, but this one is ready to go. So I leave them for at least 4 weeks. I've gone up to as far as like 4 months. It doesn't really matter. Once it's in there, it's not gonna spoil as long as it remains covered. So like this one I need to top up. We ran out of vinegar, but I can go ahead and get that topped up and it'll be fine. This is other stuff we're working on. But back to these guys. So today I'm gonna go ahead and get them processed, at least one, into these smaller jars that I will show you what we do with those. So we either just use it as a full concentrate. Like I recently used one cleaning the guinea pig cage. I just use it straight, just pour it on there, scrub it. It works really, really well. When you're cleaning, you just kind of want to think of it as if you're using like straight undiluted vinegar, because that is essentially what it is. So whatever the, ooh, sorry, that was so dang close. Whatever the acidity is of the vinegar that you used is, so these are 5%, is what it will be. Is generally kind of what I gauge it off of. These I got off Amazon. I can link them below if they're available, or you can just search for like bulk amber jars and then whatever size you want. So these are a pint. I picked this. It came in an 8-pack. There was a spray nozzle for each guy, and then there's also these storage lids for each one. So I just store them with the lids, a label, and they hang out until we either use them or we don't use them, whichever it's going to be. And I've actually got a bunch still from last year, so I can show you guys those. And I'm going to go ahead and try this year to turn one into a salad dressing. I had not tried that yet, and I might try one as a marinade, just to kind of play around with it, because we've always just used it as a cleaner. But honestly, I don't know, we're making more than we need. We normally only eat like maybe 2 pineapples a year. Ever since our trip to Hawaii, we've just been like fascinated with pineapple, and we love to eat it all the time. So like I've got this one, we're finishing up today. That one will be ready in about a month. And then I've got this guy. So, I mean, I could also just, you know, chuck those scraps into compost, but it feels like I should do something more with them before that. So I want to try to figure out more ways to utilize it, which is why I'm going to try out salad dressing and marinades and stuff like that. These scraps I will put in my compost, and that's a personal decision whether or not you put things that have been soaked in vinegar in, or pickled, anything like that. Whether or not you put that in your compost is up to you. Some people don't, because it can throw the balance off. Our compost heap is waist high, and just kind of exists out there in the wild. So I have no problems doing that because I know it can overcome it, if that makes sense. And this is basically all the like vinegar scraps we put in it is just these guys. We're not out there just like randomly dumping vinegar in it every week. It's once a month, it's getting a couple scraps. So again, personal decision. So the tools I'm using for this today, obviously these smaller jars, a funnel, which I need to grab. And then I am using this cheesecloth because it's hemmed. I really wanted something I could like use repeatedly. I had bought some cheesecloth at the store and it was just like a big mess, huge mess. And it was very loosely woven, which you do you. I didn't realize there was different grades, but that's what this is. And this is a 1 yard square, this piece is. I've got multiple sizes. This was just the thing I had handy. So I've just folded it into quarters and I've put it into this strainer that I've got. I like to use my metal one for this because I don't feel like it, well, metal can react with vinegar. It's in here for such a short amount of time. It should be fine. It's also, I'm pretty sure it's stainless steel because otherwise it would rust. But it doesn't react to it. The plastic could react to it. So if that's all you have, just work quickly. Try not to leave your scraps in it for very long. It could like it could leach into the plastic, which would create a taste difference in future things that you use in that colander for a little while. So I like to use the metal because it is non-reactive in that way. And then same for the bowls. I like to use glass versus plastic, so it's not leaching into the plastic. And I have this big one that fits the colander just about perfectly, and then a smaller one here so that I can just set it and capture whatever little juices want to come out after that. And then we'll funnel it into those guys. So this is a messy process, so I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna just set the camera up and let it roll, and you guys can see how I do it. All right, so I've got this guy ready. I'm just gonna start with 1 jar because I only have the 4 smaller ones ready at the moment. I need to find and see what else I've got. So it still smells pretty much just like straight vinegar, but you can see there's already a color difference. White vinegar is clear and this is yellow. And you just kind of got to shake all these bits out. One thing that's nice is because it's been sitting in there, they usually come right out because they're already starting to break down, which is nice. Set that off to the side. I guess I don't need to seal it. And then, I mean, you could do like this method where you just kind of use the cheesecloth to strain it out if you didn't have a colander you wanted to use. And actually, I might just go ahead and do that this time, just to speed things up. Just be aware, it is straight vinegar, so if you have any cuts in your hands, you're gonna know about it. All right, and then I'm just gonna set this in this other bowl. So this is our finished product. I know it doesn't look like much. I'm gonna go ahead and rinse my hands and we'll get on to the next step. So at this stage, if you wanted to, you could add essential oils. You can add it directly into the bottle when you fill it, so it has time to kind of really mesh with the vinegar and the pineapple, or you can add it when you get ready to use it, your choice. I've done both and they both work fine. So sorry for Shadow City here. I am working on updated lighting for this area because I do want to do more kitchen videos. So, all right, I forgot my ladle, but it's an easy fix. I'm just going to use plastic for this because this is such a quick little process here. Sometimes the scraps can be really saturated depending on how much of the flesh you've left behind. And so that's generally why I just kind of anticipate it's going to take a little while. This went pretty dang quick. I think because I cut pretty close to the skin, so nice and easy. These bottles are nice because although they're dark, you can see through them, so you can see when it reaches the top. And I go pretty much all the way up, leaving just a little bit of headspace so that if I opt to use the sprayer, it isn't overflowing. So just dry this bad boy off. I'm gonna put one of these storage lids on it. Really, really like them. And then I'll just go ahead and give it a good once over, make sure everything's dry before I put my label on it. I don't put the label on it ahead of time because just like that, sometimes you get a little bit of a spill and that's no fun. You don't want to ruin your tag. So I just use these, they're meant for like printing on. They're just Avery printing labels. But there you have it. All right, so I got 3 pints out of that one. This one's a little bit lower than the others, but that makes sense because we used a 1/2 gallon jar, and then the pineapple apparently accommodated for just about a pint worth of volume. So that is one thing to keep in mind. Just because you used something that holds 4 pints of liquid does not mean that's what you're getting back. So I will show you guys where I store these. Just a heads up, it's very dusty, as most long-term storage is. All right, so I've got our new ones right there. These ones I need to get switched over to other kinds of jars. These are some from last year. There's some jam. Those green beans were here when we moved in, so I just kind of left them. We won't eat them. Please don't come at me. We will not eat them. They're just there, hanging out. Anyway, so here they are. These ones, like you can see there's some sediment here, which is perfectly fine and normal. That's actually from the pineapple. So this was the second batch where I had used the scraps the first time and then refilled it with vinegar and did it again. And this one actually sat for 7 months. So these we moved with and I forgot that we were infusing them. And so they just kind of hung out until we got them taken care of. But there you have it. So like I said, these we can just like pop a lid on or pop a sprayer right into it and use it or whatever, but they store really well. And I like to use these darker ones because they're UV resistant. This room doesn't get much light, hardly any actually. There is a window, but it's covered by a curtain all the time. So it's really not a huge issue in here. But if you were storing them somewhere where they were getting a lot of light can alter vinegar, especially after it's been infused. So something to keep in mind, as with all your canning stuff. But there you go. Have you guys ever done anything like this? Do you have any ideas on how I can use some of it? Some of these I think I'm probably just gonna chuck. Probably don't need them. Or I could make like a super cleaner or super clean the house. Any of those things, I guess. If you want to see what we end up doing, you guys know what to do. Go ahead and subscribe and we will see you next time.